In this vlog we will be looking at 4 athletes, each of whom play on a U14 girls soccer team. We will be looking at skills or capacity adaptations in both speed and agility in order to enhance athlete performance. We will be looking at speed with athlete 1 and athlete 2, predominantly acceleration and maximal speed. With athlete 3 and 4, we will be looking at agility with a keen focus on locomotive agility, change of direction, acceleration and deceleration. Already you can see from the athlete's pre-stance that they're not ready to explode into acceleration. I would like to see the athlete starting from a sprint start position, if not bent slightly forward to maximize the explosiveness of her first step. This image shows that the athlete at full triple extension is quite upright, which would already suggest that they have a strength capacity issue. Athlete 1 expresses long periods of ground contact in order to create a greater net impulse. During a maximal sprinting phase, this needs to be shorter. During this phase, we need to have seen the athlete's quad and hamstrings folded, with the hip extending the knee through the sagittal plane and ending roughly parallel to the floor. The backwards touchdown lunge aims to increase single leg strength whilst promoting the activation of triple leg extension. When completing this activity, the athlete shows what could be a weakness in the hips, the trunk, or a lack of mobility in the ankle, which initiates a forward lean to compensate and get the centre of mass over the base of support. A set of mobility tests should be completed in order to identify whether the mobility is inhibiting her sprint performance. Athlete 2 shows a lack of skill with regards to her sprint performance. She exhibits a high amount of braking forces due to her foot landing in front of her centre of mass, which will make her hip flexors less effective and in turn will find it harder to express force. This is very evident when looking at her knee drive and triple extension. From this image, we can identify that the athlete drives her arms across her body. As a result, she uses her head to maintain equilibrium in the transverse plane. This is a very inefficient way to deal with the rotational forces and something that must be addressed. Athlete 2 also worked with a backwards touchdown lunge. Their focus was to perform the activity in a linear fashion through the sagittal plane. Our aim was to enhance the athlete's pattern recognition whilst in triple extension. In addition to this, it was deemed appropriate for the athlete to complete the A march, with a focus on linear mechanics. As you can see, the athlete has a good grasp of the concept, and we now hope to transition these skills to her sprint performance. We finish with a competitive sprint activity with an element of agility. The activity included acceleration, deceleration, and a cut-in motion. Athlete 1 was encouraged to drive legs higher, whilst athlete 2 was encouraged to maintain linear arm swing. The Illinois agility test was used because it was deemed appropriate according to their sport, with acceleration and deceleration over 10 meters, also have elements of locomotive agility, and of course change of direction. Athlete 3 shows a suboptimal change of direction strategy. We would like to see foot placement outside of the centre of mass with an explosive ground force reaction We should see more of a body lean into the turn, with the hips turning as the knee drives across the body. We would also like the athlete to show a greater anticipation of the change of direction. The athlete completed lateral box jumps whilst aiming to express horizontal ground force reaction, and also outside landing anticipation whilst manipulating a change of direction. On closer inspection of the athlete's lateral plyometric box jumps, you could see that she had a prominent valgus knee, which looked like it was a byproduct of the pronation of the right ankle. You can actually see how this manifests itself in her linear running technique. This is something that I would absolutely address before moving forward with any future recommendations for agility adaptations. This is just one exercise that I would potentially use instead of using a kettlebell, maybe use a medicine ball. Athlete 4 shows a lack of strength capacity when changing direction. The ground force reaction is low, and in turn allows for an ineffective change of direction. You can actually see on closer inspection that the lack of reactive strength means the change of direction breaks down completely and leads to an inefficient stride pattern strategy. Before we move on to the strength intervention, I am inclined to discuss the decision making of the athlete in this moment. I feel like the capacity would be enhanced, and we might not have identified strength as necessarily as a factor in this turn. We can see here that the athlete has not anticipated the cone and therefore not anticipated the turn, and as a result the reactive force is less. Visual scanning is a key part of the game of soccer, so this is something we would definitely look to address in addition to the capacity, strength capacity. Again, using lateral box jumps, we are looking to enhance the athlete's horizontal force generation. And this is purely for strength gains. We think this will enhance the athlete's agility capacity. We finish with a competitive agility activity with 2 explosive change of directions followed by linear bounding, all of which are applicable to their sport. The coaching cue for athlete 3 was to drive the outside arm when changing direction. The coaching cue for athlete 4 was to look to drive the knee across the body when exploding into a change of direction. So it's obvious that all of the athletes had various capacity and skill issues. However, we could focus on individual elements that should help the athletes enhance their individual sprint performance. Some of those were in speed with strength, arm swing, mobility and motor control. In agility, this was strength, technique, and an undetermined mechanical deficiency that needs to be addressed before moving forward with training. My name is Ben Solomon, and thank you for listening to my vlog number 2.